with me, and you'll see that I live in a world of I don't give a fuck, bitch.
There's one person on earth, that is the African person. And in traveling around the globe, this African
Americans. And I want you to know this part of our history because people erased it. And we'll get to that later on in the program. Erased it intentionally. Erased it intentionally. That's an important part of it.
The cover-up of, let alone Native American sites, why would so many people be covering up the evidence of earlier civilizations in the Americas? I think some people have called it a colonial cover-up, a colonial archaeological conspiracy.
There's two sides to this story. In one side of the story is the way America was conquered by basically Anglo-Saxons. And in that conquest of the Americas, what they confronted was an indigenous people who had inhabited that realm for tens of thousands of years, we now know. And the first thing they did was to attempt to exterminate them physically, to get them out of the way. And when that became objectionable, the next measure was to exterminate their culture, to rub it out, to pour scorn upon it, to say that it was of no value, that in a sense, the absurd and monstrous argument was that the Native Americans deserved what was done to them because they were supposedly not capable of any high culture. We now know that that's completely untrue, and that was a conspiracy. That was a conspiracy to destroy Native American culture and thus to legitimize the conquest and the massive theft of land. And it carried on into the 20th century with the so-called boarding schools, where Native American children, almost all of them, were taken away from their families.
We've talked about
hundreds of miles away and put in schools and taught that their culture was rubbish and indoctrinated with Western.
We've actually talked about
It's like a little slideshow, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically take y'all and walk y'all through it step by step, man. Just a little bit at a time, man. It's gonna go by years. I'm gonna explain a little bit about it, so that y'all can see. Y'all gotta remember now. Look at the dates and look at the dates of these, and remember what's supposed to been going on in history when you start looking at some of these dates, because all of that's gonna play into it too. All right, now give me a second, y'all. Okay, now this right here, for any of y'all that want to go out here and check this out to see where it is, it's a map of us.org, map of us.org. Here, go right here in the description so y'all can see it, map of us.org. Mine is a map of Georgia, what I'm doing today, because this is where I live at, man. And they got every single city, every state over here listed to the left, so y'all can go in and check out them as they became populated and stuff like that. Now down at the bottom you see they got the different dates and everything like that. Basically this is like a little slideshow. I'm not gonna play it because I'm gonna talk a little bit in between each slide or whatever, but I'm gonna let y'all see. Now as you notice, first thing I want you to do is look at the date. This is 1758. Now remember, some of the dates are a little bit off, so
alright, say no more. Say no more. 9 Spiral. All right, let's cook a bit. Coffee and Kush session. All right, now what I wanted to do was touch back, kind of do like a revamped version of the 1881 Cotton Exposition. All right, we're gonna kind of get into this joker right here. All right. Basically, you know what I'm saying? What we're gonna do is some good old fashioned observation. All right. In the hood is, you say put eyes on them. You know what I'm saying? Sit on them. I mean, sit and watch them. All right. And I tell you what we can do. Give me one sec. All right. This video is for anybody, but I'm gonna talk to Israel for a minute. All right. So we're going to just talking to Israel. we're going to approach the subject matter in reference to Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1 through 7. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Yisrael, to know Amma, all right? Amma, your mother above, an instruction to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. This is Abba talking here. All right, because what's unique about Proverbs, they go to bat for each other. And so you can kind of see the family affair that we're dealing with parents above. To give to the prudence, to the simple, to the young man, knowledge and discretion. You wonder why you're wiser than the older people in your family, huh? A wise man will hear and increase learning. I will say it again. A wise man will hear and increase learning. And a man of understanding will obtain wise counsel to understand a proverb and an enigma. And an enigma, all right?
Now, to all the white people, how does it feel to know that all of your heroes are fake? Napoleon was a copper tone person.
Naturally defined. Just real quick, just to get it going, it says here in 1751, Benjamin Franklin classified the world's population by color. There were black, tawny, swarthy, and white complexioned peoples on the globe. Some will be surprised to discover that Franklin listed the French, we're going to be talking about, right? French, Napoleon, Germans, Russians, and Swedes among the swarthy, among the dark Danton, and the French Revolution, Robespierre, and the French Revolution. This book is from 1910, and we go to page 29 of this book. Down at the bottom paragraph, it's letting us know that at this period of his life, Napoleon was described as dark, swarthy in feature. Okay, dark, swarthy Napoleon in feature, short in stature, poor physique, head large, full and intellectual. He wore immense dog ears, as they were called, a style of wearing the hair then in vogue. His long, lank locks, all right, his long locks fell over his ears and the size of his face, and almost, if not quite, reached his shoulders. He was exceedingly thin, and his legs did not fill out the tops of his military boots. He presented rather a ridiculous appearance until the gaze of the beholder met the searching and thoughtful expression of his deep-set eyes. Okay, again, he is described in this period as dark, swarthy in feature. Okay, so-called black.
All the houses of England was a copper tone person.
A lot of people see those family crests and the websites or internet. Well, this is one of the books that has those crests, that contains those images. I have the other books, probably showed in other videos. This is the crest of Great Britain and Ireland, Dominion of Canada, India, and Australasia. Australasia, derived from best authorities and family records. All right, this is an official, the Fairbairns crest, family crest collection. This is one of them right here. All right, the archer. Now, if you go to the book, you can see what family it is. Number 5, it'll tell you in the book. You can go check it out. All right. These ain't slaves. These are family crest, you know. All right. And so this is an example of one of the pages. Just wanted to show you guys. I zoomed in into some of them. The whole book is filled with this. All right. And this is a close-up of number 7. All right. So what I've been trying to tell everybody is, you know, so what happened to all these dynastic so-called black families and all these dark Welsh and these swarthy Europeans? You know, that they just disappear and go to Africa? Is that what we're gonna believe? Is that what we're logically gonna say? And because when we're talking about indentured servitude and Europeans coming over here, I'm not just talking about light-skinned, pale Europeans. I'm talking about what they were calling the Black Dutch, the Swarthy Germans, the Black Irish, the Black Scots. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands, hundreds and thousands. I'm telling you, we've got the numbers. In case you haven't seen my videos of white servitude, indentured servitude, and I got a lot more coming. And it's just a long line of black Scottish Stuart kings, the Stuarts. 343 years of rulership in Scotland. The Stuarts not only ruled in Scotland, they ruled France, Spain, and Ireland and England, Britain, and Wales. King James was able to rule all of these lands because of all these people were of Iberian black descent. All right, so were all they from Iberian, or did some of them come from Atlantis or America? All right, they were the same people. If you look at the ball in his hand, it represents world rulership, and there was only one other group of world leaders who used this type of symbolism, and they were the Byzantine Roman emperors. Remember, they told the English that they were Roman citizens. This is the proof. All right, so he's saying these Britons have something to do with the Edomians or Edomites.
Britain, copper tone. Scotland, copper tone. The entire world, just copper tone.
The words of the wise and their riddles. What's the conclusion of the matter? The fear of the Most High, your parents above, is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. All right, y'all, coming up in this different years, right? 1881, 1895, 1860 something. Not only in Georgia, but in Texas and Louisiana, called cotton expositions, huh? We wonder why cotton. We're gonna find out why. All right, let's cut through this thing right here, man. One of the keys to understanding these cotton expositions, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there wondering why cotton. Why y'all naming these expositions, these world fairs, in the southern region, cotton exposition? So it must be about the cotton, right? Another key is to understanding this joker right here. All right, and in my understanding, the reason why we're able to put these pieces back together, one of the reasons is because we know the correct narrative. All right, we've been given a narrative from them. which is screwed 10 times over. All right. And so they'll have you focus on this skin color here. But you can't just focus on this skin color. You got to focus on this skin color also. All right. Because Psalms 83, we're talking about a confederacy against one people. You see, Israel, you've been discontinued from your heritage, all right?
The pyramids, all that's nonsense. And I think that really, as our brother was saying, sure, we got to stop talking on certain levels. I believe that our discussion at this point is counterproductive. See, we're not about asking them, was Egyptians black? That's yesterday's discussion. See, we dealt with that yesterday. Whether or not you're up to the par is your business. Okay, you missed a train. I didn't. I was on that train. And so now we have got to be about the formation of a nation in terms of our thought process. And this is why the Moors become so very important to us, because if you do not understand the Moors, it's very difficult for us as a people to understand why we're in the position that we're in today. You cannot understand why we're in the position we're in today if you don't understand what happened in 1492. You cannot understand what happened in 1492 if you don't understand the Crusades. You cannot understand the Crusades if you don't understand the Moors. Because the very nature of the knowledge that the Crusaders, the Christian Europeans, got of the riches of the East, why Columbus was on the seas in the first place hundreds of years later, was because of what the Moors had brought into Spain. And when you look at European powers, see, here's another way that you can look into it. See, this is why the two areas that they want to keep black folk out of in education is social studies and language arts. It's the two areas that we have to conquer. Math, science, all that's important, but those are all physical sciences that we can master anyway. But you see, social studies tells you what happened, language arts puts it in a language that tells you what happened. And see, we're not suffering from a misunderstanding of science nor of math. We are suffering from a misunderstanding of ourselves and how to express ourselves, which falls into the category of social studies and language arts. So when I was looking for an area to find myself in Board of Ed, I immediately went to social studies because I understood that revolutionary things could happen, and they are happening. Because you got to understand the sequence of events in history. You have to see the sequence, and when you see sequence, then everything else comes to be an understanding. New Zealand, she's a European. Yeah, and it's very important. New Zealand is an African island. Tasmania is an African island. Australia is an African island. All of these areas are African islands, but when they've been around long enough, they can tell you and make you believe that they've been around a long time. Just like when you look at North Africa, I seen a program where the woman of light complexion was talking about the builders of the pyramids probably looked like her. I can tell you biologically why they couldn't have looked like her. Because when you dress a certain way, and in all of the friezes that we see people that are lightly dressed. If you are a light complexion and you stand in 110 degrees in the shade, you're going to get skin cancer. So you could not have been looking like that and been out in the sun without anything on. So you can't look like that because you would have died. Simple scientific principle. It had no emotion in this at all. I'm not wishing no harm on you. I'm just saying, let's look at this. Biologically, you cannot last in the sun for thousands of years and build pyramids. You can't do that. You die on top of the pyramid. Egypt is the doorway to African wisdom by the European. They entered Africa through Europe. That's the only thing they know. So therefore, to them, when they write books, everything deals with Egypt. But as an African people, there were things going on in Africa that's just as dynamic. I'll give you another example in social studies. We teach our children about Native Americans, but what we do is that we take the same route Europeans took. We look at the Native Americans along the East Coast when we start teaching children about Native Americans. We don't teach them about what was going on down here. We teach them Native Americans the East Coast, basically where the 13 colonies were. The reality of it is that to understand the Native American nation, you've got to look at the Mississippi River. Because the Mississippi River to Native Americans was what Happy was to the Africans. You go to a place known as Cahokia, which, when you look at the Mississippi River, it almost becomes like a Y and then it comes down. Cahokia is located in southern Illinois. It is the largest pyramid in the northern hemisphere. There are over 110 pyramids along the Mississippi River. For more information on that, there's a book called by Jack Weatherford called Native Roots, Chapter 2. It's called Pyramids Along the Mississippi. There is evidence of Ramses III on the Mississippi River. There's a book called Ramses III, Father of America. Get that book and you'll see. Ramsey, 1,500 years before the Christian era. Evidence. There is evidence of Africans in Davenport, Illinois. Evidence of Africans in California. Evidence of Africans in New York State. Thousands of years before the European even came to this area. See, we get the impression, because of what they have introduced, that everything started happening in 1492. There was lively and real trade amongst Africans and Native Americans thousands of years before the European even left the caves 2,000 years BC. There is evidence in Cahokia, Illinois, of trade going on with Native Americans of Brazil. There is evidence in Cahokia of artifacts of Native Americans from Canada. There is evidence of an attempted unification of the Native American world amongst the Siouan world, the Muskegon world, and what is known as the Haudenosaunee or the Iroquoian. There is evidence of the three languages coming together, and Cahokia almost was like Washington, D.C. for Native Americans. That was the center point, and you find it right in the middle. You find evidence of all three languages spoken throughout the American hemisphere of Native American peoples in Cahokia, almost like it's a repository of information. This pyramid I'm talking about is called Monk's Mound. Why? Because Monk's Mound is called because when the Trappist monks came to this area, they sat on the pyramid and took it over. And they started dismantling the stones and all the other things that built the pyramid to build their cities. So now when you go to these areas here, you see what are called mounds. But what you don't know is these mounds were once pyramids prior to Europeans dismantling the stones and the bricks and the mortar to build their homes.
Jeremiah 17, 1 through 4. The sin of Judah, I say the sin of Judah, is written with a pen of iron, with the point of a diamond. It is engraved on the tablet of their heart and on the horns of your altars, while their children remember their altars, their wooden images by the green trees on the high hills. O my mountain in the field, I will give you as plunder your wealth, all your treasures, and your high places of sin within all your borders, and you, even yourself, Israel, shall let go of your heritage which I gave you, all right, your parents above, and we will cause you to serve your enemies in the land which you do not know. Oh, but now we do. Huh? Now we do. And so also what we're saying is and those who hate you have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people, Israel, and consulted together against your sheltered ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. You see that?
This is General Lafayette. And in the background, you see a brother in the back. That was a Moor. Now that Moor is the one who, now in these motifs you're going to see the Moor in the background who looks like he's a servant or something. He is in reality the teacher. And the European up front is in reality the student. These are the Moors who was behind the scenes secretly educating the European. Now, America's Constitution.
Even you yourself will be discontinued from your heritage, Israel. That the name of Israel may be remembered no more, for they have consulted together with one consent, for they form a confederacy against you, the tents of who? King James, black air King James, you know, all right, melanated old ish, male, all right, the Moabites, all right. And real Moors claim their heritage, all right? They claim that they're descendants of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites, all right? Who inhabited North America. You know how they say, All right? Whoever they are, all these people are Confederate, man.
You got to take that into exception. Okay, now look at what it says. It says Creek lands and Cherokee lands. This is 1758. So what they were considering those people, anybody that was in this area around this time, was considered to be either Creek or Cherokee. Okay, now the Cherokee line is a little bit higher than what it should have been because it actually came down a little bit lower. I actually traced the true line, and come to find out, it's rather ironic. I grew up on a creek called Lion Creek, and that was the Creek line and the Cherokee line. You know, it's real ironic, man, how history come back and bite you. And I was taught most of this stuff as a child, but I did not know it to be true because I was being, programmed to believe that it was a lie. All right. So this is 1758. This is 1763. Notice the only thing they did was define the border of Georgia and Florida, because they were down in that area trying to progress. Now, you see that they 1777. This is right after they did the Constitution and all of that. Now look at some of the places that's coming up: St. Thomas, Matthews, Glen, Andrew, James, St. John, Richmond, St. Paul. Now all of these people are basically just some of the European conquerors. They named their cities and states after them. Now if they had been here for all this time and so long, don't you think these places would have already been named or known about? Why is it that they still are considered Creek and Cherokee lands? That's because they were our land. All right. Now let's go on down to 1783. Northern border established. You see that? The northern border was established in 1783. Okay. 1784, they added a couple of more. Look at it now. They're just adding territory. Then you got Bourbon County, and they just basically all the way out to the Mississippi claiming that. But look what it still say. Creek and Cherokee lands. But if you go back and look at some of their maps and some of their history, they're gonna tell you that, this is part of the Georgia territories. How the hell is it a territory if it don't belong to you? How is it part of your territory and it's the Creek's territory? Doesn't make sense because they already had made plans on attacking it. Because that was their plan from the beginning. They never did plan on doing anything other than attacking. 1786. They didn't do hardly shit, Washington Whites or whatever, they just basically expanded upon their own shit. 1788, the Bourbon County established, just one county. And then look at the little different counties within their land that they had, 1790. Then 1793, they started to section them off a little bit, but they didn't make no more progression towards us. They started sectioning them off a little bit more, but did not make no more progression towards us. Now look at this little bit of the area that they have. This is what they controlled. This is what they owned. So this is what the people right here would have just now been enduring slavery. Well, they really went in. Well, yeah, they was enduring slavery at this point in time. This point in time is when they would have been doing that. Then you start seeing that they actually tried to put a border over here on the left side, right over here. They tried to put a border to basically section off Georgia some more. Then you start seeing they just expounded upon this. I'm pretty sure that they didn't really do this over here. They just added that in to make it look like, oh yeah, they did some of this. Now they did have missionaries, so don't act like I'm trying to say that they had no idea about this stuff. They did have missionaries that went out there and tried to go look, and surveyors that surveyed and stuff like that. That's how they learned information about us. Those missionaries, those same Bible thumping people that come out here, the Jehovah's Witness and people like that come out to your door. That's what they had, Those same people was doing the same thing back then, okay?
Against one damn nation. Huh? All right, and so all we're going to do is dissect what Mr. Booker T. Washington purpose was. Not what he said, but what his purpose was. What purpose did you serve? Let's rock.
The Atlanta Compromise. Booker T. Washington's famous speech
All right.
at the 1895 Cotton States Exposition was regarded as a sellout by some Negro intellectuals, but as a brilliant program for...
A brilliant program. But what though? What did he say before that? Was considered a sellout by Negro intellectuals. All right. Now, this is what Proverbs is all about right now. I'm thinking if these Negro intellectuals viewed him as a sellout, then how did your ancestors view Mr. Booker T. Washington? Surely we knew he was hijacked and wanted no parts of him. Surely we did. If Negro intellectuals viewed this character right here as a sellout, surely your ancestors thought worse. All right? This is deeper than what you think it is. This is about cotton and rewriting history. All right, let's go.
Progress by most whites. Either way, it made the educator into a celebrity overnight. Roger M.
Who creates celebrities overnight, huh? Hollywood. All right? The controllers, whatever you want to call them. Who put politicians in position, huh? Government. All right? You see what's going on? He's a ball player. Just like Martin Luther. Just like Malcolm Little. You see, they always got to give you two. They gave you two then. They got to give you the old Hegelian dialectic, all right? And that's word to UB News. They got to give you two. They gave you who? W.E.B. Du Bois. He want to take you back to Africa. All right? I'm about to knock over my lamp. This is near and dear to me. Du Bois want to take us back to Africa. This Negro want to do what? Let's find out. All right.
Williams, Time Magazine bureau chief in Atlanta. The Cotton States and International Exposition opened in Atlanta on a bright September day in 1895. The city's premier event since the close of the Civil War. It attracted exhibits from around the world and visitors from around the nation. It was a colorful exhibition and a glorious tribute to Atlanta's rise from the ruins of war, and one part of it, a speech by Booker T. Washington.
What war, man? You talking about the Indian Wars? Don't tell me nothing about no Civil War. That was a cleanup operation for the damage. The whole North America and South. All right? Was recovering from a catastrophe. A catastrophe, all right? Let's break them down.
Has achieved historical immortality. Washington's Cotton States Exposition speech, cheered loudly by both Negroes and whites, had a twin effect. It pushed Washington into the front rank of Negro leaders.
You said what now? Say that one more time. One more time. All right, let's go. Let's cook. I said, let's cook.
Ruins of war, and one part of it, a speech by Booker T. Washington, has achieved historical immortality. Washington's Cotton States Exposition speech, cheered loudly by both Negroes and whites.
Negroes and whites. Like them there? Like these right here? I want you to pay attention to these melanated people right here, all right? Pay attention to how they dress. All right? Sometimes it's the little things, all right? little things. Negroes and whites. Got it. Damn, a lot of so-called well-dressed Negroes, huh? So he's talking to a lot of well-dressed Negroes, all right? And well-dressed white people. Interesting.
Washington into the front rank of Negro leaders, and it made his prescription for Negro progress: hard work, patience, and trust in effect. It pushed Washington into the front rank of Negro leaders.
It pushed them, or did they put them there? Just saying, huh?
And it made his prescription for Negro progress: hard work, patience, and trust in the whites, a guiding force for a time in American race relations. From the
You know what I think this is about? Them sending Booker T. Washington to convince us to go into business with the so-called white man, huh? I'm gonna show you why I think that, all right? But just like I said earlier, if Negro intellectuals thought he was a sellout, what the hell did your ancestors think he was? All right.
We're going to edit that out. Let's talk about something serious. So, now that everybody realizes that there are 12 black families that run the pyramid under one, really under two, but they're under one because the two are united, their mother and father. So, you have to understand that now is the time to stop calling things by title. It's no longer good enough for you to just say God. And I have to break out of that habit myself. It's no longer good for you to just say God. You have to say Hawa. You have to say Havalier. Havalier is one of the 777 names of God. But the true principle was called Hawa. Stop calling all these demons by their name. I mean, by their title. They're not just demons, they have names. Hawa gave you the power to demand to know your attacker. That is one of the divine laws. That's why whenever they would be doing an exorcism, one of the key things about an exorcism, no matter what, you have to know that demon's name. Because once you know that demon's name, you know how to stop it. Because everyone has, like I told you in the beginning when I first started this, after the first rebellion, back when Lucifer was still with God, that was the first rebellion. The angels, underneath the second generation of archangels, decided to rebel because as above, so below. There's a reason why we have laws about everything. Even to this day, as much as they have perverted, changed, and twisted the Bible still holds 777 laws which are to be followed by the children of God. 777 laws.
Now you look at it, and then they start putting the western border over here, as if they really had it, but it's still Creek and Cherokee land. So how the hell is they? You see what they was doing? They just went and worked around us, and they did what they could do, and they took what they could take. Then they finally started impeding back on us in 1803. Then you got them, that's basically because they was fighting that war from 1803 to 1805. It was just blue, and then it went back to white. Let me go back to the previous. Sorry, man, my computer, I need to get a mouse pad, man. My mouse pad, don't have one. But you see this right here? They basically just was in this area fighting. That's all it really was. And then they took it, you know. And then they started sectioning it off in 1807. Then they sectioned it off again in 1808. Some more in 1809. Some more in 1811. Some more in 1812. And this is when they got to 1818, when they started going down there. If you look at all these little areas down here, this is when they decided to make their push to fight these areas. These areas was not taken by them, because if you look at the documentation, you see the wars that they was fighting. They was fighting between the Seminoles and everything. And at the same time, remember now, we just passed the War of 1812. Remember that now, when they supposed to been having a civil war with the British. Now that's something that I want y'all to look into too, man. When y'all get a little chance, look at the War of 1812, because the national anthem is something that I had made a little SoundCloud video that I had put out about that, but you got to look into it, man, because the War 1812, they try to say that they had Canadians fighting against Americans in the War of 1812, but yet they teach it to you that it was the British and Americans. And then if you look at the war, you see that Napoleon was actually at war with his own people over there in Britain, so they didn't have the real time, resources, or assets to fight a war over here in America, because they weren't really fighting a war over here in America. This is just their other empire. That's all it really is. They was fighting a war over there with the black people over there in Great Britain. That's why they was over there.
By Jake Macbeth Forbes. Alright, I actually have the passenger list, the ship list from 1745 of the Jacobites. Alright, and there's something very interesting in here. Alright, this is from the Harvard College Library, from the bequest of Thomas Rand Ward. Alright, and again, when we're talking about these people right here, we ain't talking about Africans. Right? It says the Jacobite gleanings from state manuscripts, short sketches of Jacobite, the transportations in 1745 by J. Macbeth. An exact list and description of 150 rebel prisoners shipped at Liverpool on board the veteran John Rickey, master for the Leeward Islands, which were taken near Antigua the 28th June last by the diamond privateer Paul Marcelli, commander, and carried into Martinico the 30th June of 1747. All right, what are we going to see here? The passenger list of all these prisoners, Jacobites. Now let's see, it says name, age, profession, the county, the statute, remarks, so any other thing, right? And number one, just for example, we're going to start with number one. It says Robert Adam, 18. He was 18. He was a laborer. County, he's from Sterling. He was 5 feet 1 inch, very short. He's brown. He's brown. Smooth face, right? He's brown. All right? He's brown. William Bell, 46 Weaver, Berwick, 5'4". He's black with curled hair. He's strong made. All right?
So it'd be interesting to see all the people represented, right? What they'd really look like. Look from another page right here. All right, as you can see, guy represented right here. Hoffman, Goffman or Hoffman? The Hoffman? Is that what it says? Hoffman? All right, zoom into this crest right here, as you can see. All right. Let me see if it says anything in the top. All right, tells you right here what the family is, I guess, and the relations. It goes down. Great Cordovon House. All right, as you can see. So Swarty. And another page right here, some more coat of arms. Just want to show you these two, right? Okay, this guy right here. What's that say? It's the family right there. It's the symbol they got. Look at that. X. All right, I'm in another page right here. Again, just notice how the only person that's represented here is what? So Swarty. So Swarty, as you can see. This is the family. What does that say? Salasarus? Did I say Salasarus? What? or Lazarus. El Lazarus de Belson. All right, that's the crest right here. Queen, Sorty Queen. All right, there's another one right here. Zoom into it right here. Let's see, Lord Brits, Lord Brits, Lord or Lord Brits, Lord Brits, Lord Brits, Brits. Okay, I'm in another page. Look at all the quarter farm.
From the standpoints of popularity and influence, the speech was one of the greatest achievements of his career. Booker Taliaferro Washington.
Oh, that sound like a Edomite name? Taliaferro. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right. Let's rock.
The principal of Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute was born in 1856 on a large plantation in Franklin County, Virginia. His father, he admitted candidly, was a white man who...
Oh, what? Oh, well, that excludes you from being an Israelite.
who lived nearby. His slave upbringing was typically impoverished.
Yeah. His daddy was a white man, but he was a slave. We're not buying it. How about they manufactured you just like they do the rest of them, and I always send them over to the real ones, the real American Indians, huh? This was their method to try to get us to go into business with them. Indentured servant. That's what Alma's saying to me.
There was no floor in the one-room cabin. There were few clothes and little food and absolutely none of the amenities of life.
Damn sure don't look like
After emancipation, Washington's mother took the children to West Virginia. Life was better there, and somehow young Booker became, as he later put it, determined to secure an education at any cost. In 1872, he went to Hampton Institute, a leading Negro vocational school. He arrived with 50 cents in his pocket and immediately fell to dusting and sweeping a recitation.
This is what kills me about these narratives, right? They always start off as so-called slaves, meager beginnings, not enough food, but yet then, who in the hell paid for all these? You went to damn near 3 schools. Who in the hell paid for that? Shit, to do that now, how much money that is? That shit costs. Who in the hell put you through school, sir?
Dieu mon droit. God and my right. And the Crown Corporation. Right.
All right.
Room to prove his fitness to be enrolled. Washington was a fine pupil. Hampton stressed a practical education for a practical life, and he became imbued with that philosophy. In 1881, the Hampton Principal's recommendation secured Booker T. Washington, age 25, the top position at the newly formed Negro Institute at Tuskegee, Alabama. Tuskegee under Washington became world famous and financially secure.
You know, then we're gonna go to the next one. Notice this 1819, then shit changed. They just tried to add in a couple of more borders. Then they came up in here in 1821. Now this is where they reached my county. But the thing about it is I actually found them in 1840. I found my family on the first censuses that they had, because they didn't have these censuses made by then. Like I told y'all now, these was a little bit behind. So it really around 1830 is when I actually found that they got to my people. But they didn't get that until that time, man. You know, it was around 1830. See, that's the 10-year gap that they trying to put in, because it plays up and it messes up the history. Like if you go and look at their documentation, when Andrew Jackson was basically making treaties with these fake $5 Indians, he was out there. All of that stuff happened in 29 and you know 30 and 32. So basically, they want you to think that it happened 10 years prior and that they already had this land. So when you go back and look at the paperwork, you're going to be like, oh, man, they already had that land. But they didn't. That's the thing about it. All right, now 1821. And then we see that they just basically started filling them in, sectioning them off a little bit. That's 22. 23, they just basically started doing the same thing, man. Now, most of these things are not hard dates. They shouldn't be in there as if they are, because when I actually went in and did a couple of the cities, my girlfriend is from the South, and she did some of hers, and we found the same information. It was about a 10-year gap in the actual time frame, you know. Excuse me. But it's 1825. Now, it's 1825 now. I'm taking time and pause out real fast. You see, the Cherokee lands, Creek lands are still here. Now, everything to the left of that is still Cherokee and Creek lands all the way on out to the Mississippi, man, you know, and different indigenous tribes. But the thing is that they want to try to teach it to y'all like all of this had already been conquered. Now, you can clearly see this 1825, and they still got lands in Georgia that have not been conquered. So what does that mean for all of y'all people that's on the east, on the west of the Mississippi? How does that apply to y'all? How would it apply to y'all? You know? Then we go on some more, and then they took Carroll, Coweta, Lee, Muskogee, Troop from the creeks. You know, and I actually found out that my family, I'm part Cherokee, and my dad's family is Cherokee, and my mother's family is Creek. They come from LaGrange. And we actually found, like, I did a lot of census on them, and I found a lot of information. And my folks have tracked them back to 1798. But as you can just see, and that would be down in this area right in here. My mouth's messing up, man. But down in that area, right around in here, this is where my mom's family would have been coming from. I'm going to go back real quick just so y'all can see. You notice right there, BM, 1825, you know. They didn't even have it. Let's go all the way back a little bit further. You know, 1819, they definitely didn't have it. You know, but we tracked ourselves through, we tracked ourselves all the way back to the 1700s. You know, let's get back on over here. 1825, then we got 1826 where they started sectioning off a lot of the stuff, and the only thing that's left is the Cherokee lands up at the top. Then you got 1827 where they started sectioning it off a little bit more, dividing stuff up. They divided more up, and then they went out into the rest of the Cherokee land that was remaining and basically said that, hey, that's ours too. Then they basically sectioned some more stuff off. Then they basically took it to Creek County. They called it Cherokee County at that point in time. And then they basically sectioned it all up, added a couple more borders, added a few more borders, added a few more, sectioned off a couple more. Then they sectioned them off a little more, dissected. But now you see now, 1851, and they actually starting to actually do all of this stuff. These counties are becoming counties, and cities are becoming cities, you know. But have it believed like you know, you would think all the way back in 1776, all of this was already done, you know. That's what you would think by listening to they dumbasses.
So when you got there in 1881, it magically became financially secure. Okay, all right. We got it. All right. Now, I'm going to show you why I say my theory is that our ancestors did not want to go into business, meaning work for these so-called white people or whoever owned the damn plantation.
Of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History obtained from the Laura Spelman Rockefeller Memorial an appropriation for the support of research into certain neglected aspects of Negro history. The special report, however, was not the objective of the research department of the association. It developed rather as a byproduct in compiling statistics for the much larger report on free Negro heads of family. In the United States, in 1830, the investigators found so many cases of Negroes owning slaves that it was decided to take special notice of this phase of the history of the free Negroes. So they were compiling something else, and they're like, whoa, there were so many that had slaves. Wow, let's do another book or census on it, supposedly, right? And in the introduction it says, the aim of this report on the free Negro is to facilitate the further study of this neglected group Most of these people have been forgotten. For persons supposedly well informed in history are surprised to learn today that about 500,000, almost 1/7 of the Negroes of the country were free prior to the emancipation in 1865, all right? A lot of people who say they learn and they know history, they would be surprised to know this fact. 500,000, that about 500,000, almost 1/7 of the Negroes of this country were free prior to the emancipation in 1865. It is hardly believed that a considerable number of Negroes were owners of slaves themselves, and in some cases controlled large plantations. Continues, says, in the South, where almost all the Negro slave holders were, moreover, we find some of them competing with the large planters in the numbers of slaves they owned. Most of such Negro proprietors lived in Louisiana, South Carolina, Maryland, and Virginia, as did the majority of all such slave owners. There are moreover a few instances of confusing absentee ownership with Negro ownership. Sometimes a free Negro had charge of a plantation but did not own the slaves himself, and the enumerator returned him as the owner. All right, so that was some cases, but in reality, a lot of them were the owners.
Matter of fact, the whole formation of America was based on our federal government that we had set up over here, one of which was called the Iroquois Confederacy. And in this book, The America's Secret Destiny, by Hieronymus, he discusses in here how Benjamin Franklin got their whole thing about this federal government from us. It says, here's what Caldwaller, a contemporary of Benjamin Franklin, said about the Iroquois. The Indians have outdone the Romans. They have a social and political system so old that the immigrant Europeans knew nothing of its origin. A federal union of 5 and later 6 Indian nations that have put into practice concepts of popular participation and natural rights that the European savants had thus far only theorized. In other words, we was putting into action what they was just learning in theory. And it says the Iroquois system expressed through its constitution, which was called the Great Law of Peace, rested on assumptions foreign to monarchies of Europe. It regarded leaders as servants of the people rather than their masters, and made provision for their leaders, impeachment for errant behavior. The Iroquois law and custom upheld freedom of expression in political and religious matters, and it forbade the unauthorized entry of homes. It provided for political participation by women and relatively equitable distribution of wealth. And it goes on to mention how in Arthur C. Parker's account of the Iroquois' Great Law of Peace, he notes, here then we find the right of popular nomination, the right of recall, and women's suffrage, or the right to vote, flourishing in old America of the so-called red man, and centuries before it became the popular clamor of the new America of the white invader.
They have laws for marriage. They have laws for parenthood. They have laws to raise your child. They have laws for farming. They have laws for raising cattle. They have laws for being a master over a slave. It's the 777 laws. They have laws for peace, for war, for eating, for fasting. To this day, if you go get a Bible from 1980 something, you can find the complete 777 laws. As much as it is perverted, they did not touch those laws. Now, the 12 families. The reason why I keep on saying that we have to stop calling them by title is because we have to start calling them by their family name, basically. Because we call out the Rothschilds, we call out the Rockefellers, we call out the people that we used to think pulled the strings. But now that we realize that the truth has been in plain sight our entire lives, and everything was painted white for a reason. What if I tell you that America was truly founded by a bunch of crooks, thieves, and slaves.
You see what I'm saying? We have always tried to stay disconnected as scripture teaches us to, all right? Your parents above teaches us, taught your ancestors not to adapt to the nation's customs, because if you do, you will become just like them, all right? Very unhumble. So if Negro intellectuals view Mr. Booker T. Washington as a sellout, surely our ancestor did, right? Because while he was in school in Tuskegee in 1881, the International Cotton Exposition was popping off, World's Fair, all right? In my home city and state, I was born Southwest Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up with the likes of Goody Mob, Pat Sleepy Brown, you name it. Carlos was my OG. Y'all know him as CeeLo. Let me tell you a little thing about him. I heard Gipp say this on the podcast. He was a knockout king. I done seen CeeLo knock out about 3-4 motherfuckers huge. All right. All right, but back to it. So we knew Booker T was hijacked. They sent him, right? They sent him to try to influence us to go into business with them because of this right here, cotton. We knew how to manufacture it, all right? We knew how to manufacture it. And them damn cotton gins been there, all right? Didn't no damn Eli Whitney invent no cotton gin. That shit been there, and I'm gonna show you. But this is why I believe we was going against the grain, and we did not want to become indentured servants and go into business and work for these motherfuckers. We probably knew they was gonna cheat our ass. And that's exactly what happened. Because right after that World Fair opened up, all right, this what happened the year after, 1881. Number of lynchings in the U.S. by state and race, 1882 to 1968. Get a load of this. Watch this. Cotton State, Cotton State, Cotton State, Cotton State, Cotton State, huh? All of a sudden, after 1881, y'all go to lynching and running the so-called Negro off their land. You see that? They did that now.
Keep my part context.
Let's go.
And as was mentioned yesterday, that this part of Atlanta was once part of the Cherokee Nation, you know, in the 18th.
All right, great video the Kuramio dropped today, y'all. All right, Kuramio, talk to him, man. I'll try to talk to him.
Furthermore, as the coast tribes dwindled, they were compelled to associate and intermarry with the Negroes. Dodge the hijack. Many of these tribes or tribal people are so-called Negroes.
Facts are.
And look how they try to explain this. They say until they finally lost their identity, they disappeared, the Indians went extinct. and were classed with that race. So
they were discontinued from their heritage, just as scripture says, all right? And so a confederacy was formed against them to cut them off from being a nation that the name of Israel may be no more, like it says in scripture. Let's rock out.
they became Negroes, the Indians, copper-colored tribes, so that a considerable proportion of the blood of the Southern Negroes
Smithsonian,
is
y'all.
unquestionably Indian. Again, guys, listen up. So that a considerable proportion of the blood of the Southern Negroes is unquestionably Indian. All right? So how did we get to this? Because they were trying to explain why so-called Negroes would know American indigenous folklore and mythology, oral traditions.
You see that? And so they gonna tell you subliminally. Ain't that some shit? Appreciate that, Ark, man. You're doing a great job. I salute. All right, let's hear some real spill about what happened. Let's hear from a Gentile's point of view. How about that? All right.
You would not believe some of these pictures. This was the International Exposition of Cotton in Atlanta in 1885, known. And at first, it might look somewhat fairly normal. But as we proceed, we start to begin to see electricity and advanced machinery, and then huge granite structures all over the place. Train stations, grand columns, pillars, statues.
Wow. All right, come on. Let's take a look. All right. Some of these pictures are small. I didn't have time to, you know what I'm saying, doctor them up. Some of them I did. But if you can see this on the screen, just look out the overall layout, all right? And they want us to believe they did all this right here. All right? Some of them I can't blow up. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with that. All right, just look at these buildings, man. Look at the layout. All right, and these were affairs. These are pictures from 1881. And I think it was one in 1884 or something like that. Then one in 1895. I think that's the one Mr. Washington spoke at. All right, but that's kind of strange to me that they had several in Georgia, the same location, Piedmont Park. And I've been to Piedmont Park several times, and looking at it now, it's old world. Looking at the steps and stuff like that, and you seeing it back then, it never crossed your mind. It's like, okay, it's some great work. All right, in the late 1800s, fairs and expositions were an important way for cities to attract visitors. How? Y'all just went to war with each other in 1865, Civil War? And now y'all here, y'all acting like y'all don't know each other. That's strange to me. Anyway, 1895, Atlanta hosted 800,000 visitors as a way to showcase the economic recovery of the South. That's bullshit. In which cotton played a huge role. See that cotton exhibition in Georgia, Bama, Louisiana, New Orleans, Texas. All right, it was all about the cotton, and we were the only ones that could mass produce like that. That's why they sent your boy. All right, but eventually, you think we under these curses, all right? And so in my mind, it would have came to the point of time where it's like, you know what? We can't beat them. All right. For crying out loud, they were taking shotguns and putting it in your and walking household, Negro household, put the shotgun into 11, 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old boy mouth and pulling the trigger. All because somebody said he looked at a white woman. You see, that type of shit. That's what we had to deal with. All right, that's small. All right, you see that? Y'all want us to believe that y'all did all this gardening and shit, but y'all was riding around in horse and buggy. But y'all, you see how perfect garden? Y'all was some hell of a gardeners. Hell of a gardeners. That's all I got to say. To be horse and buggy people. You see how this planet? Y'all was some hell of a gardeners, man. Nah, y'all, then who? True Green. Y'all ain't got nothing on True Green. True Green ain't got nothing on y'all. All right. They even had a damn Negro building. And who are these well-dressed Negroes standing in front of this Negro building? I would suggest that they're not Indian. Damn, it won't let me blow it up. All right, who is this well-dressed, melanated woman? Because in my mind, all right, because this is how the indentured servants dressed right here. And they look like one of those straw balls, huh? Yeah, see, in my mind, this is how indentured servants dress right here. With an attitude like, damn, I should be in school. Now I gotta work for these white people, huh? Because we still don't see no slavery. Nah, we wasn't no weak-ass people like that. You can't sell us that shit no more. We know who the fuck we are. Because every other nation on the plane, or the face of the plane knows, except us. Just like it says in scripture. But also, just like it says in scripture and it's prophesied, some of us are going to wake up and remember that we were Indians, Negroes, Afro-American. We're from color to Negro to black to Afro, African American, and right back to nigga. Word to Talib Kweli, huh? And so I'm just showing you simple methods of just common sense. When you look at the whole picture, first you gotta know the narrative. All right, we ain't doing nothing special here at Drop Nation. We just know the correct narrative now. That's all. Then you can put the pieces back together. But these right here is how indentured servants dressed. And so you see the rewriting of history. Carrick, could you kindly bend down and let Miss Sally Mae crawl up on your back so we can take a picture? You see the rewriting of history? Because they was Pt2. All right? They was Pt2. And they also had to work for the corporation of Amaru Khan at that time. All right.
And if you don't go back and do this research on your own, you will always think that. And then they section off more stuff, section off more and more and more and more. 1861, 1870, 1875, not much has changed. 1905, 1906, 1912. But, you know, I ain't going to keep going with that right now. But as you can tell, man, you can see how they basically went and started, you know. They basically went and just, they lied, man, you know. They just now started doing this stuff. That's why I think it's important for y'all to know that, man, you know. These folks have been lying to y'all since y'all was kids, you know. Just like my family told me, man, like my dad told me, he told me the best. He said, you know what, Nick, all that they ever did was they would come in and they would build stuff over here onto your land that they didn't ask for, and then you would just be like, okay, whatever, you know. And then after a while, they'd be like, hey, you didn't pay taxes on it. And we'd be like, what the hell is you talking about? Well, we built it for you, so you got to pay taxes on it. And our people be like, well, shit, we didn't tell you to build it. And they'd be like, well, since you didn't, you can't pay the taxes, we'll just take this and the land that it sits on.
Your confederacy. They also had to work. They just was treated fairly, and we was treated like shit. That's all. You see, this is how we dressed. This is how our ancestors dressed back then. All right? Not like this. And we're going to see the whole picture in a minute. There he is. Wouldn't you say these people are well dressed in this audience? I mean, just look at her, right? I wish I could blow this one up. I might have already did, but, you know. Give me 1 second. All right. Kind of like these folks right here. All right, now, magnificent building. All right, we're going to get some better pictures. But I just like, you know, the dimensions compared to, you know, where they're situated. You can't, you know, it kind of brings it to life. You see, they did not build this right here, not the horse and buggy people. All right, now, this is what I'm saying, all right? These were learning centers. All right, you see all these pictures and stuff like that? How they're rearranged. It's sort of like a museum, all right? You go to the museum, what happens? You learn things, all right? And so these was no more than teaching centers for the newcomers, all right? Ellis Island, right? 1900, the floodgates opened up, all right? Everybody just started packing in to our land, all right? But that's for a reason, because the Most High said he has a sacrifice. All right, now this is the same melanated female, all right? Here's another one, all right? They're not indentured servants. Most likely to me, they would have to be part of that confederacy in Psalms 83. Who? Edom. It's easy. You can easy to tell Edom. They just in hiding, all right, in these days and time. But you got to start pointing the elbows at them, all right? Kind of, you know what I'm saying? You know, point that elbow. I see your hair sharp. I see you, Jesse. All right. And they young. I see you. All right. Now, how come all of these world fairs, these complexes, if you will, seem to have an electricity building? Because that's how the machinery ran. All right. Easy. Can I blow this up? Nope. Yeah, I can. Nice, nice. Look at this dome, man. All right. And this one downtown, all right. Just like this one, bigger. But top, you know, the top is gold. Real gold at that. All right, all right. You know, not as extravagant as you would say, let's say, 1893 Chicago World Fair or the St. Louis. All right. But you got to think Georgia is very wooded forest. You know, the forestry is off the chain. All right, the foliage or what have you. Nice, nice. You know, you mean to tell me that and this body of water is still at Piedmont Park, but you mean to tell me that y'all built around this and built the whole bridge? All right, look at this, man. And so I've even thrown trains and railroad, you know what I'm saying? Railroads off the, I done threw that out the window. All right, if you didn't build these buildings, damn it, you ain't got nothing to do with these trains. That shit was already here.
And Louisiana is one of those states listed here. We're gonna speak on some of the Louisiana slave owners in a specific family there, a surname, particular. Just one, for example, that we're gonna talk about. I just wanted to show you that he's in here. And this is in the same book. It says documents here, Louisiana, continued, right? And it's listing the people by their counties or parishes where they are. And one of them is Point Coupé Parish. And right here we see the Decours or Decour Antoine. This is a close-up, Point Coupé. All right, so we see Decour Lefroix and Decour Antoine Decour. So that number is slaves in total. So slaves 70, total 76 people he owned at that time in 1830. So in 1830, Antoine Decour owned about 76 slaves. Antoine Decour. Who's Antoine Decour? Free person of color, right? All right, so real quick, wanted to read from this is The Creole Angel, the Self-Identity of the Free People of Color of Antebellum New Orleans by Ben Melvin Hobratch, B.A. Thesis prepared for the degree of Masters of Arts, University of North Texas, August 2006. This is in chapter 2. Real quick, the slaveholding of New Orleans free people of color, 1820 to 1840. The study of free black slave ownership has enjoyed substantial attention in the past 30 years. Studies published in recent years have made it increasingly evident that despite the racial similarities between slaveholding free people of color and their slaves, all right, the racial similarities between their, the slave owners and the slaves, most slaveholding free people of color own slaves to exploit their labor. However, despite these profit-minded motives, a slave owner might engage in a benevolent act, such as the manumission of a slave. This chapter seeks to examine the slave ownership of New Orleans free people of color during the antebellum period in an effort to find out more about who these financially privileged free blacks were, as well as a little bit about their self-identity during a time in which the Crescent City underwent rapid Americanization. Now it says here, continuing further down in this article, says, while each purchase and sale, they're talking about selling of slaves or indentured servants, transfer or manumission of slaves is unique, these records can be grouped into similar types of transactions. The first grouping of records are those in which a free person of color is purchasing a slave. For example, many of the notarial records reveal a tendency during the antebellum period among the gens of the couleur or people of color, free people, libres of color, to purchase English-speaking slaves from Virginia. So who were these slaves from Virginia? In 1822, free man of color, Francois Pt2 purchased 22-year-old Negrice or black woman Sally of Norfolk, Virginia, from J. Nova and P. Martel for $512. The proclivity to acquire bondsmen from Virginia was not unique to free people of color. Ever since the 1808 congressional ban on the importation of slaves from abroad, many slave owners across the western South in states such as Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas purchased there slaves from Virginia, where slave owners were willing to sell slaves to labor-hungry regions for high prices. New Orleans, slaveholding free people of color, also purchased biracial slaves from Virginia. Rosalie Chesney, a free woman of color, purchased the 20-year-old Virginia-born mulattress or mulatto woman, Belinda, from Jean B. Mosier in 1822 for $550, only to sell the slave 3 years later for $50 profit to the widow of the prominent white notary Michael de Armas. Continues, says the sale of slaves was not always to whites. It says slaves and money also exchanged hands between free people of color. All right, so they were selling between each other. In 1821, Louis St. Amant sold 4 slaves to Pierre St. Amant for $5,700. 7 months later, Pierre sold 21 slaves to Louis for $30,160. Despite the close connection between these two free people of color, the slaves were sold, not transferred in at competitive prices. All right, people of color doing that. All right, so there's this family that I wanted to basically speak about. I'm going to read an article about, but before I read about them, because they're people of color, I want to read about their ancestors and, you know, the story behind the Decor family, supposedly, right? So it says Hainaut to Louisiana. So Hainaut, again, is going to tell us where it's from. It says the Decor family of the United States is descended from our common ancestor, Albert Decor, 1673. 1750, native of Macon, Hainaut, now Belgium. Arms and crest. I'm assuming to this one. All right. Assuming to the so-called black man right here. All right. Look at this guy, the wild guy living. But what does this say? All right, Broek, Homo Broek, Lomo Broek. Another page, and here's another one. Look at that. Another page. Found this one right here. All right, just so you can see. It says read, R-I-E-D, I think. Read, right? Read. Look at that. Read or read. I'm going to go into this book now. It says Principal Book of the Brotherhood of St. Christopher in Alberg. The manuscript weighs 242, State Archives, Vienna. When you go into the book, there's the cover, St. Cristofori. A lot of crest here. As you can see, not too many people represented. All right, I did find some very interesting ones here. I just want to show you guys. All right, and this is one of them. I'm like page 214. Look at that. All right, that's what it says here in case you can read it. But there you go. All right, you see that? You see that? All right, and this is another image we got right here. As you can see, this is the coat of arms. So Swarty. So Swarty, that's what it says, in case you can read it. I can't really read that, but in case anybody can read it, that tells you. And this is another one right here. Great image. Look at that with the turban and everything, bow and arrows. Again, this is from Germany, bow and arrows. So-called black man, black noble family, so Swarty. Look at that with the turban and bow and arrows. This is another one, very cool one right here. Let me just close out. Now, as you can see, there's 3 of them here. There's only one of them has a person. All right, look at that. Look what we find here. These are the words, just in case you want to interpret it if you can. All right, and look at the shield. Look at the family crest. Who's that right there? Look at that. All right, coat of arms, Germany, noble European families. Look at that. Zoom out.
Because the more.
And it goes on to express how basically it was said to them, and it mentions here how we were so adept in political situations and diplomacy. It says, let me pronounce his name right. Canas Satego was praised for his dignity and forcefulness of speech and his uncanny understanding of the whites. This is a Moorish representative. It says, at the 1744 Treaty Council, Canas Satego reportedly carried off all honors of oratory, logical argument, and adroit negotiation, according to Witham Marsh, who observed the Treaty Council. Marsh wrote afterwards that ye Indians seem superior to ye commissioners in point of sense and argument. Then it says, now check this out. It says, the colonists should, this is Franklin. This is Benjamin Franklin speaking right now. He says the colonists should accept the Iroquois' advice to form a union in common defense under a common federal government. This suggestion was coming to us. It said it would be a very strange thing if 6 nations of ignorant savages, this is what he's saying, should be capable of forming a scheme for such a union and be able to execute it in such a manner as it has subsisted for ages and appears indissoluble, and yet like a union should be impractical for 10 or a dozen English colonies. So the whole thing for them to come together and form the Confederacy, Continental Congress, came from us, and we are the underlying force behind that. Now, like I said, Benjamin Banneker played a very key role, and like I said, they keep it hidden. We was told that he set up the whole federal government, everything for them. Now, in this book, it mentions some secret man. In this book, The Secret Destiny of America, by Manly P. Hall, he mentions, this chapter is called The Unknown Who Swayed the Signers of the Declaration of Independence. And it says, faced with the death penalty for high treason, this is during the signing of the Declaration of Independence, it says, courageous men debated long before they picked up the quill pen to sign the parchment that declared the independence of the colonies from the mother country. For many hours they debated in the State House at Philadelphia with the lower chamber doors locked and a guard posted, when suddenly a voice rang from the balcony, a burst of eloquence to the keynote. In other words, they had the bottom downstairs door locked, guarded and everything. All of a sudden a man arises up and he tells them to sign that document. And then he goes through a whole speech about why they should sign a document, right? When he finished, all of them bum rushed the table to sign the document, this Declaration of Independence. When they turned around, the man was gone. That man, we believe, was Bembe Emmanuel Moali. He also shows up in another part, dealing with the flag, and the founding of the flag. And they said that this flag, here you go, this chapter is called The Unknown Man Who Designed Our Flag. Now, who's all these unknown people working behind the scenes? The unknown man who designed the flag. They talk about Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, a couple others going to, I believe it's George Washington's house, to come up with an idea for their flag, the American banner. And they said at George Washington's house there was a strange man there called the Professor, some strange man called the Professor. That's all they refer to him as, is the Professor. This man was vegetarian, and he was a master astrologer. Now, when you study Benjamin Banneker or Ben Bay, you will find out he was a master astrologer. And he describes here a prophecy with regards to America. And his idea for the flag they eventually adopted. And it said, now it says, after a preamble, the professor made the following extraordinary remarks. And he goes into this whole thing about the sun of our political air, like the sun in the heavens, is very low on the horizon, just now approaching the winter solstice, which it will reach very soon. But as the sun rises from its grave in Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn, mounts towards the resurrection in Aries, and passes onward and upward towards glorious culmination in Cancer, July, so will our political sunrise and continue to increase. He was laying out an astrological prophecy of how America will come about into being. This is Ben Bay again.
we get into the past, the more sounds like a slave running away. But who could be a master of kings to turn kings into runaway slaves? Who could be a master of kings to make kings into runaway slaves whenever you can get a whole population to uproot itself and run? What is really going on? Like, that's a question that we need to answer, because it's sounding less and less like a slave auction, and it's sounding more and more like runaway slaves coming here for safe haven.
Douglas, Dougal, or Dougal. We already know about Dougal. Dougal Campbell, servant, Lockaber, 5'4". He's also brown complexion, well made and ruddy, brown complexion. Alex Katana, 17. All right, young. These are young. Miller, Bandanok. All right, he's from Bandanok. He's 5'5". He's black, ruddy. Black, ruddy. All right. A lot of you is probably still saying, well, that probably means white. Well, we'll see. All right, we'll see. Dougal Campbell, Dougal, Douglas, Dougal, Swarty, right? He's a servant. Argyle. He's 5'5", 1/4. He's brown also. And also ruddy, healthy, well made and ruddy, it says, I guess. Alex Campbell. All right, we already know about the Campbells. We just read that, right? 18. He's a laborer. Inverness, 5'48". He's pock-pitted. He's pock-pitted, whatever that means. John Campbell, he's 20. He's 5'2". He's Swarty. All right, he's Swarty. There's no saying, oh, well, that black means, no, Swarty. He's Swarty. Alex Cameroon, he's well made. He's Swarty because this doo-doo, brown, Swarty, brown pock picket. Oh, I guess so. These are all brown people. See that? The D.O. is ditto. All right. William Dickinson, red-haired, thick-set, and healthy. Alex Davidson, he's ruddy and slim-made. Andrew Edwards, he's black, well-made, strong. All right. Alex Goodbrand. All right, so I want you to see all these people, right? All these people. Look at the names. Brown, black, brown, thin, black, brown, ditto, and so on, and so on, and so on.
It sounds like all these black Dutch, all these black Swedes, all these black English, black Brits, all these black Greeks and Romans, all these black Irish, they go to Mickey's again. That import, export. And remember what I told you before. This land, America, is a land of goofies. I'm a goofy. That's what the Italians called. Isn't that something? All the black Italians that came over here, they knew that we were the goofies. And they knew that they knew who the Mickeys were. Something's not right. Something's not right, because it seems like an entire civilization willingly uprooted itself, moved to the Americas, and whatever they were running from followed them. That by far is just, I'm sorry. It doesn't, something isn't sitting right. Because that wouldn't explain the Freemason Wars. Because remember, the time that the black Germans fell, that's when the Freemason Wars started.
Shit on them. I'm sorry. Yes. Corn is king. All right. I thought this was interesting, but this was at the New Orleans 1884 Cotton Exposition. All right. As you see, we have a Masonic symbol. Just think about that Confederacy, right? Psalms 83. You see the crescent and star on the end, right? You see 3 chain links, meaning they're Confederate. Could this be, I don't know. Y'all have at it, but who is this joker right here? Who is that joker right there, man? Huh? With a big ass Negro nose. Corn is king, huh? Eat 'em. All right, man, this is all I could dig up on it.
Did you guys know that every single president in U.S. history is related to one king? What?
What are you talking about?
This is where it gets crazy. This man, Harold Brooks Baker, he did all this study on U.S. presidents and royal lineage. He had this theory that the presidents weren't voted in by the people, but they were actually selected based on royal bloodline. So, 13 or so years ago, this 12-year-old girl, for her 7th grade project, with the help of her grandparents, went down the lineage of each president, and they all connected to one man.
Weird.
All their lineage traced back to King John from the House of Plantagenet.
How is that possible?
And there's a folklore around the House of Plantagenet that they were actually descendants from a demon.
Oh, what? That's horrible.
But that's where this dude's theory came in. He's like, it's not about who the people vote for. It's within the candidates that are running for president, who has the more direct bloodline to King John.
Look at that. All right, so you see back on page 3 of this book, where the contents are, it said right here, Priester Johann, or Priest John, John Priest, Prester John, Trechtenbild 32, right? You see 32? Johann the Priester, 31 and 32. Johann Priester, all right, you see that? Go back to it. The priest king, the Prester Johannes, aka King Dawit. King Dawit. All right, you see how he got kings under him? King of kings, right? You see they all got crowns. They all copper colored, so-called Negro. All right? Prester John, aka King Dawit, in this book of coat of arms. Look, he got jewels and gold all decked out. You see that? Copper colored, so-called Negroes. Look at that royalty. You see that? Who's sitting on the throne? Prester John sitting on the throne. He got kings under him. These are all kings. You see that? Paying tribute to Prester John. King David, 32. As you can see, this is from 1480. They know what's up. This is on the next page. All right. This is on the next page right here. An Indian. Next page, we got a guy right here riding on a camel. Yeah, it might be a camel too. Camel. What is that, a camel? Or a dragon, huh?
Something's off with it. The time frame for the Freemason War is off by 300 years. Because if these homunculus chimeras, and I stand by what I call them, whether they be crackers or white people, they are still homunculus chimeras. They are scientific experiments. They are slaves. These homunculus chimeras, how did they learn so fast? Not only how did they learn so fast, but If they were once giants, there's a few questions I have. One of the questions is, how did we breed them down so fast? Because I know my people are smart, but you bred them down a little too fast. And now that we've answered the question of Romulus and Remus, you see the mother of Romulus and Remus was a woman whose whole body was just covered in hair, and she looked like a wolf. Now you understanding where the werewolf man comes from. That whole thought process of a wild man turning into a beast at the full moon. That's because at the full moon their blood is at their highest. They're more savage in the full moon. So here we are, and it's not making sense. How did you breed them down so fast? Another thing is, how did you train them so fast?
In 1996, they had incubator babies on display. They grew these babies. The incubator babies of Coney Island. Are you guys familiar with the orphan trains? Thousands of orphan children from Europe, Grand Tortoria, flooded Canada, America, and South America. All our territories, without parents, orphan babies. And they were in care of by the Catholic Church, of course. So all these children came into our territories without any parents, orphans. I don't believe them to be orphans. I believe these were the incubator babies. It kind of reminds me of a movie that I saw when I was growing up called The Children of the Corn.
Foundling was founded on the 8th of October 1869 by Sister Mary Irene Fitzgibbon and the Roman Catholic Sisters of Charity. The New York Foundling then became one of the oldest and largest child welfare agencies of New York City. Once again, in the same time frame of the Victorian period, the bizarre incubator babies were exhibited at the World's Fair called the Exhibition of the Industry of All Nations at Bryant Park in New York City from July 1853 to November 1854. However, vast numbers of the incubator babies were also shown at other World's Fairs across mainland Europe and elsewhere on planet Earth. This activity continued right up to when the World's Fair, known as the Fremantle Industrial Exhibition, was organised in the port of Fremantle next to the Swan River of Western Australia. This Pacific World's Fair ended on the 26th of April 1895. The incubator babies were then concealed from the public.
Because 1400 years, the war started in the 1400s, but 500 years later, they're civilized. They're civilized enough to wage a war like this one. The math not mathing, but then I keep on remembering what the Chinese said when they conquered the Huns. The emperor looked at his people and said, "I am now the master of 500 years." And when I was a child, I didn't understand that. I thought that he just meant that this civilization is 500 years old and I've conquered it. But then when I got older, I realized he controlled 500 years of history. We're getting deeper into it. We really are. And people are starting to figure out things. Which is what makes me more comfortable to talk about things that are on my mind, because y'all are going to bring it up anyway. So, thank y'all. It's just like he said. The more I talk about it, it just put it out there, the more y'all just bring up stuff. Like, it's amazing, bro.
So their system is not stopping. And then finally, I want to say that we need one idea. And we're not thinking about a solution to the problem. We're dealing with all these other things, but these are diversions from the solution to the problem. And we have to start to think about a solution to the problem so that these young brothers and sisters who are here now, who are 15, 16, and 17, are not here 25 years later talking about these same problems. Now, how do I know that the white people know that we are going to come up with a solution to the problem? I know it because they have retina scans, they have what they call racial profiling, DNA banks, and they're monitoring our people to try to prevent the one person from coming up with the one idea. And the one idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to. We have to exterminate white people off of the face of the planet to solve this problem. Now, I don't care whether you clap or not, but I'm saying to you that we need to solve this problem because they are going to kill us. And I will leave on that. So we have to just set up our own system and stop playing and get very serious and not be diverted.
So not only do you have to free the land and help to liberate the rest of the planet Earth for political power again, you'll have to do it so that all humanity can once again get back on its proper course. And we can live life as it's supposed to be lived. Become more godlike. The object of this knowledge is to be a reflection of yourself in the mirror of history. And when you look in that mirror, you will see God, because each one of us are in the image of the Creator, the Ancient of Days, with the lamb woolly hair and the color of amber. And as Jeremiah said, he looked like the pitch of oven. Each one of us are reflections. When we look in the mirror, we see God. God shining forth from us. And if you truly believe in the Creator, then you know that you cannot accept a life other than the highest and the best that you can get out of it.